So in this video I'm going to show you guys how to install some springs on your car, whether they're OEM or aftermarket. What I'm doing today will be taking out my aftermarket springs and putting the OEMs in. The first step, you want to just get a 12mm socket wrench and take out your seats. Just take out the bottom seat first, or the bottom part of the seat first. So take this off, got a screw right there. I don't know if you guys can see it, and that's right there. And there's another one on the other side. Alright, once you get the bottom part of the seat out, you just want to get the top out. There's a bolt right there, bolt right there, that one right there, and then one over here. You should just be able to lift that seat right off. After you get the back seats out, you're going to want to remove the dust covers. 3 bolts. And same thing with the other side. Next you're going to loosen the 17mm bolt inside right there. Just loosen it for now. And you'll want to do that on both sides. Make sure you don't take it out yet. So after you loosen it, you just want to put these things on just a couple threads. This just makes sure your strut doesn't fall on the ground when you take them off. So just put the dust cover bolts back on and do that on both sides after you loosen the big 17mm bolts. So it'll look like this. Next you want to move to the front of the car and just pop these little rubber seals off. Right here. And do the same thing on the other side. So after you pop them off, just use a 17mm bolt and just loosen that screw up. Now it's really up to you if you want to remove these now or when the car's off the ground. I'll just show you right now. I'll just loosen them up. Make sure you leave some threads left so it won't fall off the car when you take off your struts. So after you loosen all your bolts, your 3 outer corners, and your big 17mm. So after you jack up your car, just want to take off your wheels. Next you're just going to want to remove the brake line right here. And once you have that loosened, you just move it off to the side. Then you want to remove the ABS. And it's right here. Just one 12mm bolt as well. Now it's time to remove the 2 19mm bolts. One right here and one right here. And you'll need a breaker bar and just put a little socket wrench on this side. So this prevents the little nut from spinning around. Good tip is just to maybe soak them in PB Blaster. Those 2 big bolts if you're having problems taking them off. You could do it overnight or just leave it on as long as you can and try to break stuff off. After you got those 2 big bolts removed, just pay attention on how you took this out. This is it only goes in one way. It's a camber bolt. It goes on top. So after you do that, just put a little screwdriver in here. So this prevents it from falling when you remove the 3 bolts on top. So next you're going to want to remove these 3 bolts. And it shouldn't fall down if you have the screwdriver in the hole. And this is the suspension removed. So it looks something like this. With the front, you will need a spring compressor. But for the rear you won't. And all you do is just take off the top screw right there and the dust cover. For the rear brake line, you're going to just want to get a flathead screwdriver, put it underneath this, and get a hammer and just hit it up and the clip will come up. And this is just for the rear suspension. On the rear you do the same thing. Unclip it, the rear brake line. There's no ABS in the back of course. Put a screwdriver there, get this 3 nuts out, and you'll be done with the back. Now remove it. Just put a hex wrench in the middle, put a 17mm bolt, and then turn it. And this prevents the strut from actually spinning inside. This is the technique I use. I use a 17mm bolt, use a vice grip on that, and then use a hex wrench, and use a little vice grip on the hex wrench as well. It just gives you enough grip. I notice if you don't use a vice grip on the hex, you don't have enough grip to hold on to this. You have the 17mm bolt off, just take off the hat and top, and that's what you'll be exposed with. And you might as well lube up your suspension, especially in the rear, if you hear any clunking. So I just bought some this lube right here, Valvoline multi-curvers, and just put it on. Right, this is the before spring, this is the after. You just want to make sure everything lines up like that, 4-wheel drive out. So it's a good idea to have what your original was and what you're going to be messing with. These are both the rear struts, so I just want to make sure everything lines up there and everything lines up in the grooves here, as you can see where the spring starts right there. So just use your original and to be a reference. If you never used spring compressions before, there's a bolt on one side, nothing on the other. Just want to start off by wheeling it all the way to the bottom, and when you're at your desired length, you put it on both sides and use a little 17mm to tighten it. Example of how to compress your front springs would be like that. Make sure it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. Make sure it doesn't go all the way to the top, so you can put it in there and you can fit it up there. Same thing over here, not all the way to the bottom. And the last one over there. So you'll want to uncompress your aftermarket springs, or the ones that were on your car, and you're going to want to compress the ones you're going to put on, because if you don't do that, they won't be small enough to go into this. And you just have to do that with your front springs. Your rear springs, you just have to push down by hand. And to put these on back on the car, just reverse. This is when you need 2 people to feed up the 3 screw holes right here. And watch out for the brake lines. Yep. This side facing me. Yep. You want to put it through. Make sure you don't hit the brake lines. Definitely need 2 people for this. It's okay.
I thought I touched it. My glove.
Oh, it's okay.
You sure? I didn't want it pushing.
Alright, and make sure you just feed through the hole down here. And lock it in with the 3 screws.